Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to look at area and volume of spheres and hemispheres. So let's add that in here. Okay. All right. Now, this arrow right here is pointing to the center of that sphere. This is pointing to the radius of the sphere. And any circle of that sphere that has the center at the center of the sphere is called a great circle. So that's what this one is pointing towards, a great circle. It's the largest circle that can be made on that sphere. All right, and the area of a great circle is given by pi r squared, and that is the largest cross section that you can get. It has the same radius as the sphere itself, okay? All right. The formula for the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. All right, and the volume is V is 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, now those are the formulas for the sphere. Well, right beside them, we're going to write the formulas for the hemisphere. So this is for the sphere, okay, and for a hemisphere. We're going to come up with those. All right. So the formula, we need those three formulas. All right. Now, for a great circle, it's the same. It would just be area equals pi r squared. And really, that's just, if I were to open up this, here's a sphere. If I take this sphere and open it up, that's the area of this circle here, which would be a great circle of the sphere that contains that hemisphere, okay? All right, and the thing about it is this, all right, you get half of this. Everybody thinks it's just half, but when you open it up, you get this one, which is also pi r squared, one of those. So that means that the surface area of a hemisphere is 3 pi r squared, okay? All right. And the volume of this hemisphere is 1/2 the volume of that. So if we were to multiply that by 1/2, we would end up with volume of a hemisphere as 2/3, because 1/2 times 4/3 is 2/3, pi times the radius cubed. So there's your formulas for the sphere and for the hemisphere. All right, example number one says find the exact surface area of a sphere with a radius of 4. All right, so we're looking for surface area, and we want the whole sphere, which is given by 4 pi r squared. All right, and that means we're going to substitute in for the radius its length, which is 4. All right, and 4 squared is 16, so the surface area is 4 pi times 16. 4 times 16 is 64, so your exact surface area is 64 pi, and that would be centimeters squared. Area is always in square units, okay? All right, and there's no need to approximate because all it wanted was the exact, and we'll quit right there and move on. All right, example number 2 says find the find the exact volume of the sphere. All right, so the formula for volume for a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so volume would be equal to 4/3 times pi times your radius, and that radius is 18 cubed. All right. Well, I don't know what 18 cubed is, so I'd take my calculator and type in 18. To get the cube, you could do caret 3, and that would be 4/3. So your volume would be 4/3 pi times 5,832. Excuse me. All right. Now, what I would be interested in knowing is that number divisible by 3? Well, one way you can find that out real quick is to add the digits and see if that sum is divisible by 3, because if the sum of the digits of a number is divisible by 3, then that number is divisible by 3. So I'd do 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 3 is 18, and then I'd ask, is 18 divisible by 3? Yes, it goes 6 times. All right, so that means this number is divisible by 3. So what I can do is I can imagine this being 3 fractions, and I can cancel. 3 goes one time here, and I don't know how many times 3 goes into this number. I'll just divide it by 3. Well, that's 1944. And now I've got all ones in my denominators, so that means it's just the product of those numerators. So I would do 4 times this 1944, so just hit times 4, and that would give me a volume of 7,776, but don't forget that factor of pi there, and that is your exact volume, and that would be in centimeters cubed. Volume is in cubic units, all right? There's your work for number 2. All right, let's turn the page. Number 3 says, a sphere has a diameter of 12 centimeters. Find its surface area and volume. Okay, well, let's start with the formula for surface area. All right, if you remember just a moment ago, the formula for surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared, okay? So 4 pi r squared. Well, I don't know the radius, all right? I know the, excuse me, I know the diameter. Well, if the diameter is 12, then the radius has to be half of that, which is 6. So your radius is 6 centimeters. So the surface area would be 4 pi times 6 squared. 6 squared is 36, and 4 times 36 is 144, okay? All right, so the surface area is 144 pi. Now, it didn't tell us to find the exact, even though technically when it asked for that right there, that is the exact. So you could quit here, but you might need units. That's in centimeters squared, or you could approximate it. If you want to approximate it, just type in 144 second caret to get your pi, and then we would approximate that to be about 452.3, let's go 2 decimal places, 0.39 square centimeters. All right, there's your work for the surface area. All right, now we need volume. And if you remember, the formula for volume is 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. So the volume would be 4/3 times pi, I like to imagine that being pi over 1, times r, the radius is 6 cubed. Well, that's 36 times 6, which is 216. So 4/3 times pi over 1 times 216 over 1 if you like. And then I want to ask, do any of these numerators have a common factor with any of these denominators? Well, 1 and 1 is useless, so let's talk about 3. If I add 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, so this number is divisible by 3. It goes 72 times. So 3 goes 1 time here and 72 times here. So then I can multiply 4 times 72. 4 70s is 280, and 4 times 2 is 288, okay? So that volume is exactly 288 pi centimeters cubed, okay? So 288 pi cubic centimeters, you can say it either way, is your exact volume. And then if we do 288 pi on our calculator, that would approximate to about, that would be approximately 904.78 cubic centimeters. There's both your exact and decimal approximation to the nearest hundredth. Okay, let's move on to example number 4. Example number 4 says, if a sphere has a volume of 4,000 pi over 3 cubic units, find its surface area. Okay, well, if we start with volume, let's write the formula for volume of a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, all right, and then let's substitute in what we know. Well, we know this volume, all right. So the volume is 4,000 pi divided by 3 is equal to 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. Well, I notice that I have a fraction in my equation. And if you have a fraction in your equation and you'd like to get rid of it, which I would like to do, you could multiply both sides by the denominator. Or, since that fraction has something other than a 1 in the numerator, you could multiply each side of that fraction by the reciprocal of 4/3. which is 3/4. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply by 3/4 on the right and 3/4 on the left, because these 4's would cancel, all right? And those would cancel, all right? And that would give me pi times the radius cubed on the right. On the left, that 3 would cancel. 4 goes here 1 time, and 4 goes here 1,000 times, all right? So that would be 1,000 pi. Now, I can also divide each side by pi, all right? So if I divide each side by pi, I get r cubed is equal to 1,000, all right? Now, I know that next I have to do what's called the cube root to undo this cube on that variable r, okay? And that looks like that right there, the cube root. And that's on the right, the cube root of r cubed is r, okay? So that radius is equal to whatever the cube root of 1,000 is. Well, that's asking what number times itself 3 times is equal to 1,000. And I believe it's 10, because 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 times 10 is 1,000. So yes, it is 10. Now, if you didn't know that, all right, what you could do is you could take your calculator and press math. And if you look down, I believe that number 4 here is the cube root. So you could press 4 or arrow down and press enter. Either way, you get the cube root, and then type in 1,000, all right, and hit enter. It'll give you the cube root of 1,000, which is 10. Okay, now the reason we did that is because in order to find the surface area, all right, we need the radius. The surface area of a sphere is given by 4 pi r squared. All right, 4 pi r squared. I now know the radius, so the surface area would be 4 pi times 10 squared. All right, that would be 4 pi times 100, because 10 squared is 100. All right, and that would be 400. The exact would be 400 pi, and these would be cubic units, or that would be in units squared, because that's area, okay, units squared. All right, so 400 pi units squared is your surface area, and let's go ahead and approximate that. 400 pi will be 1256.64. So the surface area would be approximately 1256 or 1,256.64 units squared. All right, here's both your exact and your decimal approximation to the nearest hundredth. All right, let's move on to number 5. All right, number 5 says if a sphere has a surface area of 36 pi square units, find its volume. Okay, all right. Well, let's start with the surface area formula. The surface area is 4 pi r squared. All right, we know the surface area, all right, because in order to find volume, we need to know the radius. We don't know that yet, but we're getting ready to find it. We know that 36 pi is the surface area. So we'll replace surface area with 36 pi. It still has to equal 4 pi r squared. All right, I'm now going to solve this for r by dividing, first of all, by not just 4 and not just pi, but 4 pi. That's a product. You can divide by a product because that's still one number, a non-zero number to be precise, because pi is 3.14. That'd be about 12 point something. All right. So those would cancel over there, giving you r squared is equal to, those pi's would cancel. 36 divided by 4 is 9. And then I can take the square root to undo of each side to undo the square on the r. Okay, so the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of r squared is plus or minus r. But when we're talking about a radius, that's a length. So we ignore the minus. Okay, all right, so the radius is 3. All right, now we want to find the volume. The formula for volume, all right, of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So the volume would be 4/3 pi times 3 cubed. All right, so volume would be 4/3 pi. I like to think pi is pi over 1 because I want all fractions. 3 cubed is 3 times 3, which is 9, times another 3, which is 27. Okay, and I make that a fraction as well. You don't have to. All right, and I noticed that 3 goes 1 time here and 9 times there. And then when I multiply all of those numerators, I get 36 pi, okay? So that volume is 36 pi. When I multiply all these denominators, I get 1, and 36 pi divided by 1 is just 36 pi, and that would be in units. Volume is cubic units, so 36 pi cubic units, all right? And did it say exact? No, it didn't exactly, so I'm going to go ahead and write that over here, 36 pi units cubed, okay? All right, and what we're going to do is approximate that real quick. 36 pi is approximately 1, so that volume would be approximately 1,369.73 cubic units or units cubed, whatever you want to call it, okay? All right, there's your work for number 5. All right, number 6 says, if the great circle of a sphere has a circumference of 36 pi units, find the surface area and volume of, let's change this from a sphere to a hemisphere, since we haven't done one of those. A hemisphere taken from the sphere. How's that? That'll fix their problem. Taken from the sphere. In other words, if you slice it across a great circle, you'd separate it into 2 spheres, or hemispheres, excuse me. Okay, all right, so let's do this. First thing we need to do is know that the area of a great circle is given by pi r squared, okay? We know the area of the great circle is 36. So 36 pi equals pi r squared, divide by pi. That gives us 36 equals r squared. Take the square root of each side. We get r on the right, or plus or minus r, but since we're doing a distance, we ignore the minus. So the radius is 6, okay? All right, so there is your radius, 6, okay. All right, now let's use that radius to find the surface area first. And please remember that the formula for surface area of a hemisphere is 3 pi times the radius squared, all right? So, oh, wait a minute, I did this wrong. I used the wrong formula because this is formula for area. I'm sorry, I was supposed to use circumference. So this work gives us the wrong radius. What I'm going to do is go back and use the formula for circumference. Circumference, and I want radius over here because I'm going to use that to find the surface area and the volume. So circumference is 2 pi r. Well, we know that that circumference is 36 pi equals 2 pi r. So then we divide both by 2 pi, and that gives us that radius is, those 2's cancel, those pi cancel, give us r on the right. Those pi's cancel, 36 divided by 2, that's 18. So that's the radius. So that's the value I'm going to use to find the surface area and the volume of the hemisphere. So the surface area would be 3 pi times 18 squared. Well, I don't know, have 18 squared memorized, all right? I know it's probably like, I don't know, less than 400 because 20 squared is 400, but I'll figure it out in my calculator. 18 squared is 324. So that would, I can go ahead and multiply that times 3, by the way. Times 3 would give us an exact surface area of 972, but don't forget pi, units squared. Units squared. So then I would take 972 and hit times pi. That answer is that 972, by the way. And that would be, excuse me, an approximate surface area of 3,053 and 63/100 units squared. All right, excuse me. Now we're going to find the volume. Volume of a hemisphere, because we changed it, all right, to a hemisphere, is 2/3 pi r cubed, okay? All right, so this volume would be 2/3 times pi times 18 cubed. Well, I don't know what 18 cubed is, so I'm going to bring my calculator over here and do 18 caret 3 to find out what 18 cubed is. All right, so that volume, and by the way, I'm going to ask, is that divisible by 3? Well, let's just see. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 5 is 15, 8 plus 3 is 18. 18 is divisible by 3, it goes 6 times. So I'm just going to divide that by 3 real quick and see that 3 goes here 1 time and 3 goes here 1,944 times. And now I just need to multiply that times 2. So times 2 would give me the exact volume of 3,888 pi units cubed. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to do times pi, all right, and simplify that. So that volume, or approximate it, I should say, it's already in exact form simplified there, would be 12,214.51 units cubed, or cubic units. You could say whichever one you want. All right, that's how you find the surface area and the volume of spheres and hemispheres. If you have any questions, please give me a call, email me, or show up in a Google Meet, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.